One Bro Speedrunners, Noobs and Least, welcome once again, it's the Idiot Gamer Podcast! Ladies and gents, welcome back to episode 18 of the Idiot Gamer Podcast, and it is a very special one because I welcome back the entire team.
Hello.
We've got Andy Roberts, who's jumped the gun there.
Sorry. So excited.
Matthew Angel.
Hello.
And we've got Matt, aka Scruff, over there in Washington, DC. And he's on mute.
I shouldn't be.
There he goes. All right, Matt.
Hi.
How are we doing?
Modern technology.
Hi. How are you? I know.
We're doing very well. I'm impressed we've got it all going. So let's give thanks for small mercies. Right, we're all here, and it is the end of 2018. It's almost literally the very end of 2018. And
Yeah, it's like tomorrow is the end, isn't it?
And we are gathered together.
We all managed to survive somehow.
Just about.
It's not been a good year.
I'll be honest,
terms.
no.
It's been one of the terrible years, I think, all told.
I've not had a good year, but I must admit you gents have kept me going, so it's all right.
That's nice. Good year for games, though.
Yep.
Right.
A very good year for games.
I think it's the best year I can ever remember.
Oh, hello.
Like, even the dogs agree that it's the best year. Honestly, I was making this list of our greatest games and stuff, and honestly, my 6 to 10 could have been my top 5, like from a different year.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
Like the game at number 10 is probably better than the number 1 game like from like 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
There's any number of great games, and I think there's probably a whole bunch that are not in our sort of wheelhouse
Yeah.
that will not make it onto any of our lists that some other people somewhere might have on theirs.
And they'll
Yeah.
be screaming at their podcast device.
Exactly.
By saying, why haven't you put this in your top 5?
Why haven't you put Fallout 76 on here?
The answer to that is the answer to,
Oh, hang
to
on.
many questions.
Spoilers, it might be number 1 on someone's list.
That's
so-
true. Careful what you say. You never know.
You never know.
You just never
I've
know.
seen it show up on Best Of list. I've seen it show up on other websites.
Really?
No way.
Yeah. And they were getting creamed in the comments of, what the hell is this? Why are you including this game of all games?
Oh, they should be ashamed of
Maybe they
themselves.
only played that this year. It's like that's their one game.
That's true.
Well, to be, and on that note, I've got a top 5, and it is broadly speaking the 5 games I've played this year.
So I think what we're going to do, because there's potentially quite a lot of ground to cover, what we'll do is I've asked all of you guys to get together with a top 5 and maybe some others and honourable mentions and shit that we'll come to at the end of the show. But what I wanted to do was we'll go from 5 to 1
Sounds sensible.
in a little ring. So I'll be like Scruff number 5, Andy number 5, Matt number 5.
Nice.
And then we'll discuss those games. And if they come up again, we don't need to talk about them again, right?
Yeah.
And if there's any duplicates, whoever,
We can talk about him if there's more to talk about.
yes.
I think.
What I want to see is when we get to number 1, if everyone's got the same or if everyone's got different. It's going to
I'm
be interesting.
going to make a prediction that me, Matt, and Andy all have different games at number 1.
Really?
Yeah.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Considering I haven't played some of the games you all have.
Yeah.
That is true.
And I've played basically none of the games that you all have. So
Right. Well, let's start at the beginning at number 5, and I'm going to ask Scruff, give me your 5th top game of 2018.
All right, so mine is relatively new. I just discovered it in the last week, and it's just left such an impression on me.
Wow.
Just because I like these kinds. It's a very simple but relaxing game. There's not a whole hell of a lot to it, but it's just nice just to kind of just chill and play the game. And that is the game Donut County. Have you all played that?
What is Donut County?
Exactly. All right. Have you all ever played Katamari Damacy?
Yes.
Do you remember that game?
Jesus.
Okay. All right.
You've excited Matt there a lot.
See, if I bought Katamari Damacy for the Switch, I would have actually put that on this list because it's such a great game.
It is on the Switch. I have it.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, it's Donut County is also on the Switch, and why I love it is because instead of rolling shit up, you're basically dropping shit into a hole.
Amazing. Like golf.
So basically, the game starts off.
I
into
have
a very
seen
tiny
this.
hole, and
Yeah.
you just the hole just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's all in service of a really nonsensical story, but it's just so cute and
Yeah,
charming.
I have
and
seen
it
this.
just has this really kind of just it's very calming and soothing. You're just basically just dropping stuff into a hole, and the hole gets slightly bigger, and then you go pick up something else, and it falls into the hole. And there's a little bit of puzzle aspect to it, but it's not too challenging. It's not too easy. It's just very simple and basic, and it's just I'm enjoying the heck out of it. So
and it has a very cute little cartoon fox in it, I think, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And a raccoon.
Lots of animals, lots of animal characters, and they're all basically dropped into the middle of the earth where they've all been basically. And then basically the gist of the game is that it's catching you up to how did they all end up there, and it's a really cute story so far. I'm probably about 3/4 of the way through, and just really enjoying the game overall. So I was like, okay, this can be a top 5 for me.
Very nice.
Matt, is it from the same people who did Katamari Damacy?
It is not,
Because that was like Bandai Namco, wasn't it?
I believe this is an independent developer. Yeah.
Cool.
Ben Esposito, this may even be one of those games where he programmed it all by himself. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, it's really simple. It's really basic. It's easy to get into. It's got a low price entry point. I think I paid like $12 for it over here in the States. So it really was nothing. And it's a good palate cleanser when you just kind of need a little break from the more heavier games. So I'm enjoying it. Yeah.
Very nice. The older I get, the more I want games where I don't have to be like super engaged 100% of the time. And I also like games that I can play while I'm doing something else.
Yes.
And I think that's really cool. If I want to listen to a podcast or something, or just like browse the internet, but I also want to have a game going on, it's one of the reasons I love Football Manager. And we're not going to talk about that yet.
That's a bit like when you're playing Overwatch and you're stood in the spawn point because you're checking Twitter.
That is, yes, sometimes true.
Yeah.
Well,
And then you hear me going, come on, Sai.
Yeah, come
pick
on.
a character.
Come on.
Let's go. Come on, pick a character. 20 seconds.
when you were just talking about that, I just had a quick look on YouTube, and somebody at one point does say, "Dude, the honking has stopped." So that game totally gets my seal of
The
approval.
honking.
Yeah.
Good.
Speaking of which, I definitely saw a YouTube video of someone playing a game where you're a goose and you've got to stealthily get around and cause...
Oh yes,
Yes.
I can't remember what it's called, but it looked amazing.
yeah.
Didn't it? And you had to basically get onto the farm
And cause problems.
and cause problems for the farmer.
It was basically like Hitman, but with a
Wasn't
goose.
it just called Goose?
Maybe. I don't know. I need to check that out, though.
Or was
It's
it, no?
the world's first tactical goose game.
Yeah.
Untitled Goose Game.
Untitled
Goose Game.
Yeah, it looked brilliant.
Yeah, it's good.
But that's not my number 5.
No.
Right, Andy
lovely
Roberts,
stuff.
why don't you tell me your number 5?
Well, mine's really boring compared
Is
to
it?
that. Yeah, sorry, everybody. I think had I probably played more games, this might not have got anywhere near my top 5.
Okay.
But Far Cry 5.
Really?
Partly because it was an enormous surprise to me in terms of just for a start, the level of enjoyment I actually got out of that game.
Yeah.
Because I played previous Far Cry games and found them so unfathomably repetitive and dull and tedious. You just kind of ploughing your way through a map, and so I had absolutely no faith whatsoever that they'd actually managed to make some kind of coherent, enjoyable game with any kind of story. And I've banged on over the various episodes of this podcast we've done about open world games and how they always fail to actually integrate the story into the missions very well. And I think that's something they really managed on Far Cry 5. I think they did a really, really good job of that. I think setting it in the USA, I think helped massively because it meant it was very recognizable stuff going on. And it was also, they added a really, really good slice of humour. They'd obviously picked up so much from GTA 5, I think, from that game, and I think they'd borrowed heavily from that in terms of trying to pitch the level of humour and stuff. So I think they did a really, really good job of that. I think, which is why it doesn't appear any further up my list, is that it did start to tire for me a little bit after it. It effectively actually was possibly a bit too big, I think, is probably part of the problem because I'd completed 2/3 of it. And as I was getting towards the final act, I tired of it a little bit. But at the same time, to have got that far on a Far Cry game, I think is testament to the fact that they've taken a step closer to making a decent open world game that isn't just a generic, repetitive icon farming game. So fair play.
Yeah, I had a similar kind of thing because I played it all the way through. and I really didn't like. I thought 4 was rubbish. To be honest.
Yes, I agree.
But I thought 3, it's the one with Vars in it, I think, is fucking brilliant. Mainly because it had good characters and good story. But 5, I had a very similar experience. Like, it started off really strong. I thought all the cutscenes are awesome. And the story stuff is interesting. But I actually had a complete flip flop. I loved it to begin with, and I played it on. By the end of it, I fucking hated it. And I hated it because I realised that it was just like they'd done a really good job of hiding the same shit behind other stuff. But I'll tell you what it was. That it was only when I realised what was happening that it pissed me off, and it was because something had been happening the whole time through the game that I hadn't really realised, and then when I realised it, I couldn't shake it, and that is the fact that that your guy has no voice, has no face and no personality, and you don't even know, you know nothing about yourself. The world just kind of happens around you, and you are a mute camera attached to the top of a gun that runs around the countryside. And once I thought about that, and then I started playing it, I was like, shit, it's like I'm a drone with a gun attached. Because my character has so little impact on what's going on apart from shooting things.
Interestingly, that's one of the big and people. I saw people saying this wasn't a problem, but I actually did find it a problem with the short amount of time that we've spent with so far on Red Dead Online. Because your character is mute, voiceless. Doesn't say anything, and that. I found those cutscenes massively jarring as a result of it.
It's weird.
Yeah, although even though, because I remember you pointing that out when I was playing it, and I must say that actually didn't bother me. I thought there was enough going on elsewhere that it was okay. I mean, it's slightly different, but it works in Zelda. You know, I don't think there's a problem with having a voiceless kind of main character.
I think when you're in third person, it's a bit different.
Possibly,
though. I think that's the difference. There was just, I don't know, I just found it really weird. I couldn't get it out of my head once I'd thought of it.
So I'm going to go off on a little tangent. I've been playing Astrobot Rescue Mission, which is a VR game, and you're controlling you've basically got this little robot that you can move around, but you're actually in the game as well. So you're moving along behind them, and enemies will attack you and things like that. Okay. But there was one point when I looked down and I was like, what's that? And then I realised that I've got a robot body. And then there's one bit in a level that I get back, and they've got a camera, and you're seeing yourself move as this person, and you're just like, I'm a robot. And it's just like, that was lovely, because actually you weren't this faceless thing. You were actually a robot, but you actually don't realise. It never explains that's what you are. You just look down and go, oh my God, where have my legs gone?
That's like, it's like an episode of Quantum Leap.
Dr.
Sam Beckett.
Like, I'm just there going, what crime do I have to solve today? I'll get these robots into that little thing and jump around in a fake Super Mario game.
That is ace.
Most first-person games don't even bother doing that. That's really kind of
clever. It's really, really nice.
So there you go, Far Cry 5 sneaking at Andy's number 5. And what about
Far Cry 5 at number 5?
At number 5, yeah.
That's appropriate. Seems appropriate.
And what about you, Mr. Matt Angel?
Right, well, I feel a bit bad because all 5 of these these games in my list should be higher than they are. So, apart from one, because that's ridiculous. But I could have easily put all of these games in a different order because I think they're all amazing. This has been a wonderful year for games, but my number 5 is a game that I got massively addicted to earlier in the year. I bought it on both PS4 and Switch, and that's Dead Cells, which is just an incredible game.
Now, you did talk about this a bit more. I'm still afraid of Dead Cells.
Don't be.
I am still afraid.
You are going to die, and you're going to die a lot. That's the whole purpose of it.
Yeah, don't be.
But as you die, you make little progress. Although it claims it's a roguelike, it's not permadeath, because all of the unlocks that you've got stay with you. All of the benefits that you've paid for stay with you. So it becomes better and better. They've just done a huge update on it that balances it a little bit better and adds in some extra modes where you can just go, right, I want all the weapons and I don't want these weapons and stuff like that. It's a brilliant game.
And the dungeon layout is kind of it respawns each time. It's different each time. So you're not just trudging through exactly the same kind of level as previous.
Okay.
So it loses that feeling of any kind of drudgery or anything like that. And it's also just incredibly good fun to play. And as your character gets stronger, you are better at dealing with the different bad guys, because some of the bad guys, even very, very early on, are really bloody difficult. And I then suddenly start struggling with them. But actually, once you've suddenly got some power ups, some better weapons, and some better starting weapons and things like that, it actually becomes more and more fun to go through that. It is. It's really super easy to pick up.
The controls are so responsive as well. You know, sometimes you get a platformer and you're just like, you've pressed the button and it's waited like half a second before it jumps. Everything you press like instantly happens.
That's nice.
You will die because it's hard.
Yeah.
So, but at the same point, it never feels unfair in terms of, because you're dying and you're going, well, next time I'll just pick up better weaponry and stuff. And you just keep getting into this loop of going, well, next time I'll be massively OP and then I'll show you.
Because also dying is sort of part of the process. So it's not like, oh, shit, my game's over. I'm going to have to start all over again. Because you might at that point have like picked up an upgrade or a bonus or spent some of your currency, whatever the currency is, to purchase a new level up and upgrade kind of thing.
So there are some upgrades and pickups and drops and stuff that last between your plays and some that don't.
So at the end of each level, you'll find a little man who you can trade cells for like upgrades that will stay with you, and that might be the ability to heal. That might be the ability to heal twice, and so gradually you can use these things that you unlock to get better. But you can also unlock weapons, which means that better weapons will start dropping. Okay. That's an RNG crapshoot, but it's still it's wonderful.
It is. Sorry, go on, Matt.
Oh, I was just going to ask. So, Matt, what's the difference between this? Because I know we've talked offline. You've mentioned in the past. Games like Celeste intimidate you, but this one doesn't. What's the difference here between the two? Do you think?
Celeste, from what I've seen, is very much about reaction time. You've got to effectively like do about 20 different moves in the same. With Dead Cells, you actually get these the enemies when they're there, they're quite difficult to deal with. But there are sections where you're just walking around and there's no enemies there. Whereas with Celeste, it's just like
Celeste is absolutely brutal.
Yeah, I love Celeste in terms of I've seen people play it, but it's a game that I love watching. I would not enjoy playing it.
Yeah. One of the things I really like about Dead Cells as well is is that sometimes you'll drop in like basically the first set of rooms that you come to in the dungeon is brutal.
Yeah.
And you're like, you bastards, I haven't even started yet.
Is it completely random then?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're procedurally generated.
Yeah, they have a certain type of enemy in there, and they'll have it. But sometimes you'll get super versions of those that are just a pain, such a pain.
And it's really cool because it's a relatively straightforward game, but there are different ways you can go about playing it. So one of the things that you can do, and you can get better power-ups and stuff if you do this, is if you motor through a level really, really quickly, the second you get to kind of the next bit after the first kind of save point, I guess, is you get these certain doors that are only open for 2 minutes.
Time locked.
Yeah, they're time locked for 2 minutes. So if you get through in 2 minutes, you can access that door and you can get an extra super special power
That's
up.
cool.
That's cool. But of course, if you leg it through, what you're not doing is you're not collecting cells, which you can then use for powering up. So
you might miss scrolls and stuff like that can buff your different types. It's amazing.
Sounds good.
It is.
My favourite run has been when I get. There's two different turret types that I've got. One is the crossbow-matic, which is just incredible. And then there's another one that just basically cuts people up.
Yes.
And, one that actually sucks people in. So you can basically throw both of those in, and basically the crossbow's shooting them while it's getting sucked in.
Amazing.
And if you combine that with an ice bow and a shotgun, it is just the most fun you can ever have.
It
is just amazing.
Getting that right combination of weapons in your loadout
just feels massively OP.
Wonderful.
It just makes me grin.
What are you guys playing this on? Because it's on everything.
I bought it on PlayStation, and then I bought it on Switch because I realised I wanted to play it all the time. But then I had to buy a controller for the Switch because I can't stand the D-pad on the thing, and I can't use analog sticks for it. So.
Yes.
I play it on Switch, and I bought it because I wanted a game to kind of knock about with for fun on the Switch, and it's perfect for that.
Okay, I think you guys have convinced me. What about you, Scruff?
Buy it; it's amazing.
Yeah, I definitely want to try it. It's on my short list of things I want to pick up and try. So
I have been convinced.
It's amazing.
I'll have to give it a go. Right then, Scruff, you're number 4.
Number 4 goes a little more traditional. I am loving the hell out of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate right now.
Oh, really?
I've never really cared about a Smash Brothers game before. I don't know if anything is really different, but I am having a great time. I guess probably just because I can take the game on the go and just sit there with the Switch in my lap and just kind of unlock all of these characters and go through the process. I'm enjoying.
So, are you playing single player?
Yeah, I'm just doing pretty much single player.
Because I know nothing about Smash Bros.
A little bit. I can have up to 8 people playing. I think on a single game.
That's
just
cool.
haven't had any friends over yet who want to try it out. So
yeah, that's pretty cool because I've never really understood Smash Brothers. I guess it's the Nintendo fighting game, right?
Yeah.
That's essentially what it is. Basically, Nintendo decided to throw any and all characters of theirs into a single game, and then over the years, they've started adding other properties into the mix. Like now, Sonic the Hedgehog has an appearance in there. Snake from the Metal Gear games.
Obviously.
Amazing.
Final Fantasy characters have started showing up.
Is Leisure Suit Larry in it?
He has not.
That would be amazing.
That would be, yeah.
Can
Would
you
not surprise
explain a little bit about, because I've seen some videos of people playing this and it just looks like mayhem basically on the
It
screen.
is. It's absolute chaos. Yeah.
There's a percentage rating at the bottom for the characters. How does that work? Because the percentage seems to go up, which I didn't understand.
does.
It's not like a health bar, is it?
It's not. I am probably not the best person to answer that, but my understanding is that it's basically it's kind of how vulnerable you are to being knocked off the game board if you get hit particularly hard, because there are different strength levels of the kind of attacks you can have. So if somebody hits you when you are, say, 150% of the damage, then you're more likely just to get completely smacked off the map and
I see.
either reset or that's game over for you.
I think that came from Nintendo's desire not to have characters die. I think it was more like you're vulnerable to just going off the edge.
Okay, so when you lose, you get knocked off the game map.
It's a bit like sumo, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah, almost always you'll get knocked off the game map, and sometimes, depending on how you do it, you might get hit all the way to the front, to the camera, to where the camera just like, there's a little splat in Mario on it. Slide down slowly, blocks the screen for a second.
I'm really tempted to give it a go.
It's a lot of fun. They have a little kind of adventure mode that kind of turns it into a bit of a very poorly story written, like single player game where all of the characters have been killed, and it's your job to basically revive them and bring them back to life. And so you go around like this large map, like stopping every point, like picking up characters and fighting them. And I've enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed just kind of going through it. I know it's not the most interesting story. Some of the characters seem a little overpowered and difficult to get through, particularly some of the stages, because each one of the stages sometimes will have special rules associated with it. Like, the character is going to focus on picking up items, or the character has a stronger attack than you do. And
yeah, okay.
It can be a little tedious and cumbersome, but just, for 20, 30 minutes at a time to go through and, take out a couple of characters or unlock a few extra characters, it's been a lot of fun. So I'm really enjoying the game overall.
I've seen a lot of lists this year where it's made people's number one for the year.
Yeah, and this is interesting as well, because my attempts to tap into the kind of the youth of today. Rosie's daughter, Lily, has just got a Switch for Christmas. She just bangs on about it. So because she watches a lot of kind of people like Dan TDM and all those kind of YouTubers who play video games.
Yeah.
And so she's watching a lot of that. So she's really keen on it. I was actually just at my cousin's house. My cousin's son, who's 13, 14, and he is like turbo into this game. Like he really is. So I think this is a dramatic case of me being massively out of touch in terms of just because it's not a game that's particularly interesting me. But maybe we need to try it. Does it have online multiplayer?
Yes.
It does, but in the usual Nintendo style, it's a pain in the ass. Right now, they seem to be plagued. The first time I played, I didn't have a problem, but I played again a little last night, and there is massive lag.
Right.
And Nintendo just doesn't seem to be able to keep up with the demand and keep the servers in a high functioning state to where there's not a lot of lag input. And in a fighting game where, we're talking like milliseconds between hits and attacks and trying to set up defenses, it can be life or death and just kind of, ruin the whole experience. So the game was definitely struggling last night to keep up with the input that was on screen, which I've read a lot has been an ongoing concern. And as usual with Nintendo, they try to make it as challenging and as difficult as possible for you to be able to find your friends and play with them.
What is wrong? They can't do it, Nintendo.
I think they're trying to protect children from like strangers, but by doing that, they've protected everyone from everyone else.
Yeah, they've protected you from playing it at all.
Because they've now got this thing, so you don't have to use
the code.
They've also now got a Nintendo Switch app, haven't they? So you can do the audio. So because at the moment people are having to use like Discord and stuff, aren't they? But so they've now got a Nintendo Switch app, which comes if you buy the online annual online subscription, which does the voice thing over.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, they want you to do all the voice chat over a phone. Yes. They won't let you do it over the system itself. I don't know if it's because they don't want the liability associated with it, or if it's just they don't have the technological infrastructure built up. I don't know what their deal is, but
I don't know
even
why,
in this generation, they're behind the gap on this one.
I don't know why they don't just have a Discord app on the Switch that can run at the same time as because Discord is so good.
It's really good.
That you could almost have that as your party chat without you taking the responsibility for what goes on that.
Yeah, sure.
But
yeah, either that or just open it up so that all third-party voice apps can work alongside. I don't know. There is obviously a reason they've kept it separate. I think the safety security thing for young people is probably it. And making people have to have an account on a mobile phone is possibly the one way of keeping it, at least the extreme end of the young people out of the market, I guess. Yeah, maybe.
There's a rumor that in 2019 Nintendo's going to be releasing a refreshed version of the Switch, kind of maybe even going kind of the PS4 Pro route.
No way, really.
I don't know if it'll be an upgrade, but they're definitely talking about refreshing the hardware. I wonder if
we'll all be really annoyed now we've all bought them.
No, it'll be like the DS, and I'll just buy every single version of it that ever exists.
Because I was going to say, surely that's not going to work, but then you're right. They did it with the DS, and that works for them incredibly
there's like
well.
20 different versions of the DS. Well, we'll see, won't we? That is an excellent one. I'm glad that we're getting some Switch games coming up.
We were talking in the pub the other night. We were a bit drunk, and we were worried that no one was going to have that on there, and we would get hate letters.
Yeah, it's on the list. Right.
No, I'm enjoying it.
Excellent.
It's a lot of fun.
Good shout out for Super Smash. Andy Roberts, your number 4.
So number 4, and the first duplicate of the night. And it is another Nintendo Switch game, or at least it's the game that I've been playing on the Switch, and that is Dead Cells.
Oh, very
nice. That was a bit of a surprise for me, that game, because Matt kept going on
not
about
your style,
it.
I don't think,
no, not at all. And I remember looking at videos of it and thinking, it didn't, but Matt spoke so enthusiastically about it. Although actually, to be fair, I don't always listen to him because he's banging on about. But nevertheless, he just spoke so enthusiastically about it, and I kind of liked the idea, the concept behind it. Even if the gameplay itself didn't necessarily kind of appeal to me, and like I said earlier, I wanted a game that I could play quick kind of 10, 15, 20 minute blasts on the Switch because up until that point, the only game that I'd really be playing any length of time was Zelda and Mario Kart, which did that job as well. But I just wanted something else, something a bit different. And it was relatively cheap as well, like 16 quid or something like that. Nice. So it was a super cheap game. Hours and hours and hours of fun on it, and I barely even scratched the surface on it. I'm fairly sure. So nothing more to say to that. But it really is an absolutely terrific game. Again, another game that's a total surprise to me. So,
Matt Angel, you're number 4.
Right. I've got a disclaimer here. So,
go on.
Choices in this list are individual choices. They are naturally subjective.
Yes.
There will be no judgment on any games that people raise. Everyone loves everyone else's games.
I think you're on the wrong podcast, mate.
Don't worry, I'll fix that with my number 3.
I think I know what that is. My
go.
number 4 is Tetris Effect. I have been getting some grief on the WhatsApp about my love for Tetris Effect.
As I told you, Matt, Game of the Year, 1984.
It's brilliant.
30 is 30.
But to be fair, like it's a concept. Playing Tetris over a Windows 2000 screensaver is magnificent. And you know what? It's a fucking really nice screensaver.
It's a lovely looking screensaver.
Right. Hello, Matt.
Let me just interject here. I want to say though, your plugging of Tetris Effect has had an impact on me.
Has it?
Yes, it has. I'm proud to announce that my PlayStation VR is scheduled to arrive.
Amazing. Matt, get yourself a copy of Astro Bot Rescue Mission and have a lovely old time.
My goodness gracious me.
So I bought Tetris Effect because I was bored. One of my mates at work had been banging on about it. They'd said, and the way he explained it, he said, I keep getting convinced by Tetris Effect because I've watched some YouTube videos of people playing it, and I mean to watch these videos of people playing it for like 10 minutes, and I'm there for 2 hours, and I'm just like, I don't know what he means. So I went on YouTube, took a look, and I was like there for about an hour and a half just watching someone play Tetris Effect. So I bought it, I downloaded it, and it's brilliant. There is an argument that it's not the fourth best game of the year, but it as a audio visual experience, it is just absolutely brilliant, because as you press the buttons to turn the tetrominos, I think they're called tetrominos, it adds in bits of the music, and then when you get to a certain number of lines, it will kick in the vocals or something like that. And as you do this, all these effects are coming up, and it is just brilliant. I then bought a PSVR just so I could play it in VR.
Wow.
I don't actually play it in VR that much, because actually, although the whole experience is wonderful, the blocks themselves lose a little bit of their textures.
Okay.
And it becomes a little bit sort of...
it just looks like Tetris.
Weird. But it's the combination of the Tetris, the effects, and the music.
It's the music.
This is the big song that they did with part of it. It's whoever's playing it's terrible. They're going to clear about 12 lines in a minute and it will kick in.
We're just watching a video here. This is great for podcasting. This.
I genuinely believe that it is one of the most immersive things I have ever played, because the combination of Tetris itself doesn't take a huge amount of brain power. Like when it gets faster, it does. But you've got that, and you've got all this other stuff going on. And I saw a comic strip that was just like someone playing it, going, "Look at that, look at that, look at that," and it says "Game over" because you've just not been paying attention to the game. And it is a bit like in VR, especially because effectively you've got a whale made out of particles just zooming up around you, or you've got a room in a forest which has the blinds shut, and gradually as you play, the blinds open and the music kicks in.
That's quite cool.
It's just brilliant. I cannot speak highly enough of this game. I hope that actually it's a movement towards a trend of effect games. I would love to see other puzzle games from
Columns.
Yeah, Columns, Dr. Mario effect. No, but just like games where you're just doing the simple games. But I would say that there is a lot of game there, because not only does it have this journey mode that takes you through all these different scenarios, it's got different levels of difficulty on that, but it's also got another mode where it's like different challenges, like you'll occasionally get like 2 things dropping down and you've got to clear. It's got loads of those sort of things. So if you like Tetris, you will love this game. Absolutely love it.
Is Tetris like kind of a public domain now?
I don't know.
Is it still? Was this made by?
This wasn't made by the guy.
Pajnatov,
this is actually made by someone that I'm surprised hasn't been sued by Disney, because they're called Monstars Inc. They're a Japanese company, so I'm amazed that they haven't been sued.
That is good. That is good. Well, there you go. Tetris Effect on the game.
You knew it was coming.
List.
I put it in early.
Very good.
I will just.
Do they have multiplayer, Matt?
They don't. That is the one thing they don't have. But I'm pretty good at it now, Matt. So that might be a blessing in disguise.
I will just for the sake of the podcast and a bit of solidarity with Matt. I have been giving him plenty of grief about his 35-year-old game with screensavers in the background. But I watched just to see what the fuss is about. I did sit down and watch some on YouTube for a while, and to be fair, the way once it gets going with some of the songs they've got, so the choice of music that they've got on it is really good, and some of the visuals are absolutely like breathtaking. It looks fucking incredible. It really does it. But and so all of those things are brilliant. All of those things are brilliant, and to the point where I actually thought, well, I'm going to go and see how much this costs.
It costs a lot.
35 quid.
Get
for Tetris.
out!
Like if that was 15.
Can we have a Mario dying noise for that?
If it was 15 quid, I reckon I would have done.
Yeah,
I reckon I would have gone in.
It can't be worth 35
quid for Tetris.
I regret nothing.
And you spent £235
I did.
on it.
But then I bought Astrobot Rescue Mission,
okay.
and that's well worth it on its own.
Wow.
I had to just go look and see what year Tetris was released. I may be about the only one in this group who was alive when it was released.
When was it? 1984?
Yeah, 84, yeah.
Yeah,
I was
alive.
I was 4 years old.
Yeah,
We're
I was
all really old. That's the problem. We should
I was
all
the
be
only one
ashamed.
old enough to own a Game Boy at that point.
That is probably true.
My
Yes.
sister owned one, and I stole her copy. So it's fine.
Very good. Right, well, we are 2 games in, and before we start to get deep into this, I'm going to take a little break, and then when we come back, we're going to get into our top 3s. Be back in just a sec. We are back in business. Right, we're on to the top 3s. We're getting into the real shit now, boys.
Yeah.
We've had some good games already on the list, but we are going to go into the top 3s now, and I'm going to ask you, Scruff, to give us your top 3rd game of 2018.
Oh, well, here's where it gets controversial for you boys.
Here we go.
I know what this is.
You probably do know what this is. You all walked away from it after the beta. I spent 50 plus hours.
I know what it
Monster
is.
Hunter World.
Monster Hunter
World.
Wow.
My number 3 game.
Well, there you go.
Had so much fun with that game. I barely even scratched the surface of it. It's one of those games where if I didn't have so much other shit to play, I would absolutely go back and play more. Particularly if you guys were into it, I would absolutely be into it.
Tell us why.
It just ended up being a lot of fun because I figured out, I think where we all struggled was we were trying to get the coolest weapons like right off the bat and trying to figure out how to use those. But this is a game that rewards patience. It rewards.
I have no time for that.
This doesn't sound like my sort of game.
I get it. But I just really appreciated the fact that, I could go out and take like a bow and arrow, and I had to learn how to, sharpen my weapons or to add a poison effect to an arrow that I was about to fire off. And just the game just kind of like gives you the tools. It doesn't really explain exactly what you should be doing or the best way to be doing it, but it encourages you to try new things, and it encourages you to go out there and just try to take down a beast. You don't necessarily have to take down the targeted beast depending on what mode you're playing in. You can play in kind of... we also got locked into... when we were doing the beta, we got locked into you have 12 minutes to take down this monster, when I think we kind of wanted to go out there and explore the world a little bit or explore the map a little bit and just kind of take down monsters at our leisure, which there is a mode for that in the game. And I'm sad that the beta didn't include that, because basically I can go out there and decide, okay, I'm going to go take down a whole bunch of these little lizard creatures, or well, not little, these giant lizard creatures that, are kind of like the starter monsters. And you just learn to start how to take them down and where the best place to hit them is and what's going to stun them, what's going to impact them. And it just ends up being kind of this really cool thing where you end up finding like, okay, I have 2 or 3 weapons that I'm really good at. So I'm going to stick with those weapons, learn them as best I can, and go out there into the world and start taking down monsters. And then once you actually get into it and start, going on the actual quest where you have to take down a specific monster within a specific time frame, then just to have other players come into that. And generally, I never ran into a player who was just a jerk and off doing their own thing and not helping. Everybody always showed up. Everybody always came right into the middle of the fray and jumped in and did their best. And most of the time we would win, sometimes we wouldn't, and we would lose. But nobody seemed to be too pissed off about it. And so it just ended up being a really, really cool experience. I'm glad I finally was able to break through into the Monster Hunter game ecosystem, because I read about it for years and how much everybody loved it. And now I finally feel the love for it. So now I may just, after we're done with this, I may go downstairs and pop it in and play some more.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think there's a lot of games that are going to betas now, and I think it's extremely dangerous because you can easily get your beta wrong or pitch it in the wrong way. Like you say, put the wrong part of the game into the beta and it kills it completely.
Yeah.
So on one hand, it can be great. I mean, Blizzard obviously nailed the beta with Overwatch completely.
Yeah. It was just Overwatch, wasn't it?
Well, exactly. It was perfect. But Monster Hunter World, there was something wrong about it for me. Like the way we had to go about our business in that, it just turned me off.
I think
it's very methodical. There's definitely an order of operations to the way the game wants you to do things in terms of getting ready for each fight and going out there and tracking a creature, and then once you track a creature, you have to start attacking it, but then you'll have to chase it because it's going to try to run away and get away from you, and it's very methodical in that regard. And I can understand how it can be completely obtuse to break into, because for me, there were times where I was like, I don't know that I know what the hell I'm doing, but I just kind of kept at it, and I got a little better, and I got a little better. I never got great. I'm never going to be great at these kind of games, but I just ended up figuring out what worked well for me, what weapons worked well for me that I could play with, and that I felt like had good heft behind them, and that I was being helpful. If I wasn't the one leading the charge, I was the one, being able to stand off to the side and, take pot shots at the monster, and was still doing damage and felt like I was being useful. So I appreciate that.
The problem with that is that sounds cool, but then putting the time-limited version in the beta, crazy.
Yeah.
Because they should have just had it open, let you wander about, go and find some stuff and kill some monsters.
I think they were assuming that most people trying the beta had been people who had played Monster Hunter before.
Maybe,
It wasn't a welcoming experience for the newbies, and I totally get that. And so, like, when you all said, nope, fuck this, I'm done, and I just was like, I didn't hate it, but I don't know that I loved it, but I'm willing to give it a shot because I hear such good things about the franchise. So I just jumped in and bought it, and no regrets whatsoever. You all saw me playing it for a good month and a half, 2 months.
Absolutely.
And I loved it.
Well, there it is, number 3 in Matt H's list of games of the year. Very nice.
Terrific stuff. For me, the biggest issue with Monster Hunter World for me is that my least favourite bit of the kind of big run-aroundy kind of games like that is the combat. It's just like in Horizon Zero Dawn, which actually I think the combat, and that was actually one of its strengths. Even then, you were playing against these kind of big monsters that you had, and I just find them tiresome and annoying. And so a game that's kind of focused primarily on kind of combat against big creatures like that's never going to work.
You must have really liked Horizon Zero Dawn, considering that world was so empty.
Yes.
Jesus, what a terrible game.
Looked beautiful. Looked beautiful.
Well, yeah, but to a limited scope though, because it was a big world that looked almost identical everywhere you looked. I
never played it. So.
It was very bad.
Anyway, that's not on anybody's list, is it?
No, because it was 2017. It's on my list of worst games I played this year.
Okay.
But,
So, Andy, your third best game of the year.
Third best game of the year, which I am fairly confident will appear on at least one other, probably 2 other lists of this, and that is God of War.
Number 3,
God of War. It was, and I talk about Dead Cells as though it was a surprise to me. God of War, you guys were banging on about it earlier on in the year, and what I remember years and years ago watching an old housemate of mine playing one of the old versions, looking at what the fuck is this shit he's playing? I can't believe he's playing this kind of crap game.
What do you mean? There was a QuickTime shagging section.
I didn't see that bit.
The most awkward game thing of all time.
Unbelievable, wasn't it? I don't know how they got away with it.
Can't even skip it.
Amazing.
But so I remember seeing that, just looking. And so when you guys were talking about it in such kind of like positive terms, I was not convinced in any way, shape, or form. Even remember coming around in been watching some of it, you playing it, Si, and looking, well, yeah, I guess the combat does look kind of satisfying, but it's also not my kind of thing. Like,
oh my god, it's the most satisfying combat ever. It's fucking incredible.
It really is.
Agreed.
Because it feels so. Anyway, so I mean,
the axe, honestly,
Yeah.
like the axe is just the most fun you can have.
Incredible. The way they tied in all these different combat elements together and seamlessly put them so that when you enter a battle, you enter it with such confidence because you're like, I have all these tools at my disposal to dispatch these enemies, and it makes it so. It's not easy because you still need to have your wits about you because you can die in that game, no doubt. But you're always the aggressor, right? And that's why it's so satisfying. Because I know that I've got all these tools in my locker, and especially when Atreus gets better, and you can be getting him to like take out maybe some of these flying enemies that are pissing me off. He can take care of that, and I can take out this.
Or he
giant
jumps on
troll.
the ogre's back and starts like punching him.
So good, and the feel. I mean, you get games with great gun feel, that make it really makes it fun to play. Like Destiny, for example,
Don't talk about Destiny.
No,
come on,
it's a shitty game, but the gunplay is brilliant, and it feels amazing to shoot the guns in that game.
This has been a wonderful game for year for games. Why did you bring up the worst game of all time?
But yeah, and Bungie are very good at that. Like, it feels great to fire the guns, and God of War is exactly the same. It just feels great to use the axe.
One of the things that I found really enjoyable about it as well is that there's the kind of it happens throughout the game. The transition from animation to stuff happening is absolutely seamless. One of the issues that we were talking about, which is one of the problems with Red Dead Redemption 2, is when you're trying to maneuver yourself into position to pick something up, and then it plays the animation of the man picking the thing up. Is you suddenly feel for a couple of seconds, I am out of control of this character whilst he performs this action. I'm no longer controlling the action, finishes, and now I'm back in control again. And somehow in God of War, when all of that stuff was going on, you always felt 100% in control of your character. I'm not talking about cutscenes here. I'm talking about the animations within the actual game itself. And in every single moment, you felt like you were in control of it. And then the kind of the progression from gameplay to cutscene and all of that stuff was utterly seamless. And it's so unbelievably beautifully executed in that way that it was I loved it, but more than anything else, it was so well written, so well acted, such a wonderful story, a moving story, like a profound story, and in all of these things, and they did all of that tied to this really, really well put together game. So yeah, that's a great game.
Yeah, for me, it was absolutely the story, because I played the first 3 God of War games, and by the end of the third one, I was just getting bored with it. I wasn't enjoying it anymore. The character seemed completely irredeemable. I didn't even bother with whatever the 4th game that came out on PS3 several years ago. I didn't even bother with it just because I was like, I don't care anymore. But then when this one came out and I heard that it was going to be a continuation of the existing story, but it was going to be shifted, years ahead, and we were going to see, Kratos with his son, just got into it, and just the story itself was so engaging and so well executed that by the end of the game, I didn't want the game to end because I didn't want to see that story come to an end, but it set itself up so perfectly for a sequel 2 on top of everything else that I can't wait for what this new iteration of God of War brings. It's really exciting. It's been a lot of fun.
Game developers are starting to realise, and we've mentioned this before on the podcast, certainly me and Matt, that game developers are now realising that the technology at their disposal means that they don't have to exposit the entire story now.
No.
In the past, they had to literally write the story beats into the dialogue because there was no other way for them to be able to tell the player what was really going on, like subcontextually, right?
Yeah.
Whereas now, because they can basically capture actors acting, and they're willing to spend the money on better actors and better voice actors, you can now be far more subtle with the story, and it gives you options like we had in Last of Us and Uncharted 4, and now in God of War, and in Red Dead as well. You get such a deeper level of subtlety in the acting, and it gives the writers way more scope for doing stuff like this.
I think it's actually surpassed film storytelling in that regard, because they get to tell their story over like 15 or 20 hours, sometimes longer. Whereas
Agreed.
films, like one of the things I often get shouted at work is because I dislike the first Avengers film, because there was so much exposition within that film, where in the first 10 minutes they go, oh, who's that? That's Loki. Loki's Thor's brother. And they're having all this like stilted dialogue and games are actually treating their players with intelligence now, where they're going, you know what? You can figure this out for yourself. And I love that. It is
much like playing a big game like God of War. And it is a luxury of a big game like that, because they've got huge amounts of money to spend, tons of writers, tons of artists. They can layer up all this story and leave it to you, just like reading a book, right? They just lay out this stuff on the table for you, and then you make your decisions about it, you know?
And with the transition over to the Norse mythology, they've even changed the names of some of these characters involved. So they never actually specifically state that Freya is Frigga.
Sure.
But she clearly is, because but if they'd called her Frigga, people in the know would have been like, I see where this story's going. So they've actually been really, really good with that, to the point where I was just like, you what? And it's phenomenal what they've done with that game. Absolutely.
It's got so many amazing moments in it. The opening battle with Balder is fucking incredible. And as that goes on, because it changes the dynamic of what you think of Kratos, you imagine him as this unbeatable god, and the first enemy you come up against is somebody you can't beat. Which is great. It's so well done.
I mean that storyline with Freya and Balder was just one of the greatest things I've ever seen in computer game storytelling ever.
And they just made you care about Kratos again. Like they actually gave you a reason to care about Kratos and where his life was going, and that's not something I didn't think they could do after the end of God of War 3.
I agree, because I came from the same perspective as you, Matt, because I didn't buy this God of War straight away, because I'd been burnt by the previous games, because I used to love God of War, and then it was just the same thing over and over and over again, and they'd made Kratos like really dislikable. So it got to the point where I was just like, God of War, no, not interested, and the move away from the hack and slash, I was like, well, it's just going to be like, and as soon as I started seeing the reviews and I started hearing you guys talk about it, I was like, let's give it a go, and I'm glad I did.
I think they added a layer of levity as well to the characters and the storyline, so it wasn't all this. It wasn't all this.
Atreus just didn't take any shit from his dad.
Exactly.
Like call him out on being surly and grumpy all the time, and I loved it.
It was great. He was written like a proper teenager. Right? It was awesome.
Decapitated head.
The head was freaking awesome. Added a little bit of comedy in the two blacksmiths.
Mimir, wasn't it?
Mimir, the two blacksmiths added
so good,
like a little bit of Shakespearean comedy on the side.
It was fantastic.
It's fantastic. It's fucking absolutely brilliant. Well, there you go. God of War in Andy's number 3. Fucking hell. If that's number 3, Andy, no pressure on 1 and 2.
All the pressure on 1 and 2. If it's not Tetris Effect, Andy, I'm going to be very disappointed.
Matthew Angel, you're number 3, sir.
Right, I'm not going to talk a huge amount about this, because I think there are people who will have it significantly higher than number 3.
Oh, interesting.
And I don't think I'm the best person to talk about this game, but I absolutely love this game. Bear in mind, these top 3, I could have had them in any order. In fact, over the last week, I've probably had all of them in number 1 spot.
Okay.
And this is a game that actually for it's been a good year for games, but it's been a good year for Spider-Man, because Spider-Man PS4 was brilliant, as was Spider-Verse, the film.
I still haven't seen that. I need to go and see it.
You've got to go see it. It's incredible.
It's absolutely
good. The PS4 game, we first saw bits about this on E3, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we'd heard nothing, and then suddenly I started going, guys, have you seen the Spider-Man gameplay footage? And you were like, no. And I sent you a YouTube video, and everyone's like, oh my god, look at this. The movement, the swinging, the storyline, the characters, everything is brilliant in that game.
Let's leave it there, man.
Yes, because there are clearly going to be
because
some
I think we're going to have Spider-Man higher up the list, and we're going to talk about it then.
I think someone who is like, I'll be surprised if it's not their number 1.
Yeah, well, we shall see. We shall see.
But I just need to say,
yes,
that game focused fun over anything else.
Yeah,
it still looked amazing. It played amazing. The storyline was great, but it focused on fun first and foremost, and that's not something that most games do anymore.
Yeah,
So-
good shout. Right, Scruff, we're on to number 2, the top 2 of the year.
Well, this will be a short conversation because we just had a very long conversation about it. My number 2 is God of War.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
What could his number one be?
What else?
Shock, yeah, it's gonna be
What
really
else
hard
is
figure
left
out.
to say? Andy, your number 2?
Well, I mean, I'll talk about it very briefly because Matt's just talked about it, and it might come up again later on. But Spider-Man is my number 2. I will just say this very quickly: that I remember when we did I can't remember even what little bit we were doing on the podcast. It might have been the World Cup of Games or something like that. We were talking about an old version of Spider-Man. I think it was a PlayStation 2 version of Spider-Man, which I remember just blowing my mind because you had the free roaming in New York and you were swinging
very cool.
with a really, really, really kind of good, easy to do, but entirely and utterly 100% your own control, like web swinging kind of action. That it was. That blew my mind, and looking back at the graphics on that thing, I look back and think, Jesus Christ, that was shit, and like that blew my. So for this game to come out and to have done it, the traversal across the city was incredible, the combat was incredible, the story was incredible. I won't say any more. And Spider-Man is by distance my favourite superhero. So yeah, that's
Nice.
brilliant.
Matt Angel, your number 2 game of 2018.
My number 2 game is not on anyone else's list. And I don't suspect it's going to be at number 1 on either of these two's lists. It's a game at which I have laughed the most during this, and I have had the most fun, and it is Hitman 2. It was.
I thought you were going to say genital jousting for a second.
No. It was like I played it for weeks, and
You clearly love this game a lot.
I adore it. It feels weird having it at number 2 above Spider-Man and Dead Cells and things like that.
Yeah.
But like what it does is it gives you the freedom to do whatever you want. And I started playing it, and it has all these prompts where you can go, oh, you can do it. Like you just go to this point, do this, go to this point. But effectively you can turn a lot of that off, and so after the first 2 missions I started turning that off, and I just started seeing what I could do. And I spent an entire afternoon getting a rake, leaving it in places and taunting people so they just walked into this rake. And I've got a whole video on YouTube of me, like there's one where I put a rake outside the front door, I put a parcel in someone's letterbox, I rang the doorbell, went and hid, they came out of the door, saw they had a parcel, walked straight into the rake, that sort of stuff. So I was basically just seeing what I could do. But the number of different ways that you can kill your targets in Hitman is just phenomenal. It's like...
Now, I played an awful lot of Hitman 1.
Yeah.
What does this give you ahead of the first
So
Hitman
there's a
game?
lot of extra sort of ways you can kill people. Better graphics, obviously.
Yeah. It really feels just like an expansion, though, right? Because that was pretty much perfect, I thought, the last Hitman.
Yes, I think this goes one better because you can actually import all of your Hitman 1 levels into Hitman 2
that is
with
cool.
the changed mechanisms. And so what it is if you crouch in, like if you walk into a crowd of people, you instantly become almost invisible. Okay, if someone sees you walk into there, they don't.
Yeah, sure.
But it's very much like it's a lot easier to avoid the guards now.
Nice.
So
that's
doesn't.
cool.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like that bad. The story is still terrible,
Obviously.
but the characters within them are very funny. Like some of the targets you're going after. Like there's these 2 targets where there's another terrible hitman who's trying to kill them. And effectively, you can try and help him out without him knowing by like sort of guiding the
that's
people into the
nice.
thing. So that's one way. And
That's
it's just
great. They clearly know the thing that's really clever about the design. What's the
IO,
yeah.
who were almost destroyed by Square Enix a few years ago. And it's phenomenal that they've done a game of this caliber.
I think what they realised was, because the very first time Hitman came out, I guess, in the mid-2000s, it was dead serious. It was basically, this is a serious game.
It was po-faced as fuck.
where you
It's
play
now
as
not.
Agent 47. They realised that that's not what people liked, and now it's basically a comedy game, which is fucking brilliant.
So the first level you get to, one of the first things you can do is wear a flamingo suit, like a giant flamingo suit. One of the first weapons you can equip to take in with you that guards won't detect, weirdly, is a fish.
Perfect.
So giant fish. And there is one of the challenges on it to just lob the fish in the sea.
Brilliant.
It's just
Yeah,
but there's
I love
also
that.
one which I haven't
love
managed to do yet, which is to just hit someone so hard with a fish that they fall in the sea. I've been
Great.
trying that for weeks and I can't do it.
That
but
is ace.
it's all these little challenges. So you finish a level and you go, okay, I'll try and kill them the other ways. And you try
Yeah.
and get all the different ways to kill them.
It's got huge replay.
But then you've still got loads of challenges. So it'll go, okay, try and kill both of them with one explosion. And you're just like, how am I going to do this? And it's just brilliant.
It's a fantastic couch co-op game as
Yeah.
well, because it's so funny to watch people try and do stuff and fuck it up.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
I don't know if you're aware of the Prepare to Try boys, but
yeah.
they are very funny. But their attempt at the Sean Bean single shot challenge was very, very funny.
Nice.
So big shout out to those guys, because I think that channel's stopped now.
Oh, really?
But the suspicion is that they're going to do their own channel and they're leaving IGN or whatever it is they work for.
Nice. I would love for us to do a couch co-op video.
Yeah.
On the IG YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I think that'd be good.
That if we're going to do a New Year's resolution for IG, I think one of it should we
Get
need
some
to
stuff on the tubes.
We need to get some more video content. We were going to do me playing that.
Dark Souls. that
fuck,
still
we
needs
have to
happen.
do that because that would be great.
I've still got Dark Souls 2, so we can do that.
Andy plays Dark Souls 2 and hates himself.
No, hates you guys.
And we should definitely guide you through Hitman 2. I reckon.
Yes, that would be good fun.
Me and you just having all three of us
like
just
it.
having a bit of a laugh. So
Right,
but
lads.
it's brilliant. You will love it, Si. I don't know if it's Andy's sort of game. I think Matt would enjoy it, but I know you would love it,
Yeah.
Si. So
Right.
It sounds kind of like Monster Hunter World in that you can approach
You take that
situations in a
back.
very I wouldn't. It sounds like it's one of those games where you could like approach a situation in very different manners. Like you can approach an assassination in pretty much any way you can think of within the game's confines.
Absolutely.
And to me, that sounds very similar to kind of what I went through with Monster Hunter World. I can approach a monster takedown in many ways.
Yeah.
Here are a couple of ways to try.
But Matt, if it gave me a giant rake in Monster Hunt World and I could just leave it in front of the monster and watch him walk into it and giggle to myself, I would be 100% in.
Chuck a fish at him.
Yeah, just like there, just walloping him with a fish while I'm dressed as a flamingo.
Right then, boys, we're on to the big ones. These are the top 3 games of the year according to the Idiot Gamer crew. I am gonna pass an eye over this, by the way. I'm not gonna let this just go.
Right, okay.
I'm going to pass a
Interesting.
little eye over this
Okay.
and see what I make of the situation. But
You're going to be Judge Judy and executioner.
I will be Judge Judy.
If you can't guess what our top games are, I guessed what our top game. Well, I guess what Andy and Matt's top games were like instantly, before we were here.
Is that the game? Shall I guess your top ones?
It's not a guess, really, is it?
I think I know.
Go on then.
Right.
Introduce Matt's top game.
Okay, Matthew Holland's Game of the Year 2018, Spider-Man PS4.
Absolutely. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Little
that
rip-off for
game.
Spider-Man.
It's a great game.
It is so brilliant. All right. Just to give some background, I have been reading comics for 40 years. Ever since I could start reading, that was what I read, were comic books. And I remember Spider-Man being one of the very first comics that I ever read. And just since then, he has always been my most favorite character. So over the decades, when I've seen the character brought into other mediums, some have been more successful than others. Others have just been complete letdowns. I played the original Atari 2600 Spider-Man just because it was Spider-Man.
Amazing.
God, that game was shit. Oh my god. So bad. Even then, as a kid, I even knew how bad it was. And so I just, over the decades, just have been waiting for a game that just made me completely feel Spider-Man. And Insomniac did it with this game. They knocked it out of the park. They took basically decades of history of the character and still found unique twists to make it interesting and to make you feel for these characters, to make you feel for Peter Parker and why he was so, emotionally twisted and messed up on the inside and just always wanting to try to help people and make the world a better place. And, completely fell in love with Aunt May in this game, completely fell in love with Mary Jane Watson in this game, and how freaking independent she is. She's no longer the damsel in distress who needs to be rescued. She's like, screw you, Peter. I can do this myself. I don't need your help. And I absolutely love that they just made her such a focus of the game. And then on top of all that, they introduced Miles Morales to the world, which, up until, for most people have probably never even seen or heard of this character. And
yeah, I never knew about Miles. Is he canon then?
Yeah.
Yes. Long story short, without getting into too much detail, about 7-8 years ago, there were two main Marvel universes. One was the main one we've been reading about for 50 years. The other one was about 10, 12 years old at the time and had been created to kind of do away with all the continuity and allow Marvel the ability to recreate the characters from scratch with more modern sensibilities. And the Ultimate Universe, as it was called, lasted a good while, and the most popular comic of that era was Ultimate Spider-Man, where they basically took Peter Parker, rebuilt him from the ground up, and did a really great job with the character. But as with all kind of comics, for whatever reason, the series started to get a little bogged down and a little overwhelmed, and the sales started to drop. So Marvel did what Marvel does best, and they killed off Peter Parker. Except in the Ultimate Universe, they actually killed him off. And with that opened the door for them to basically introduce Miles Morales, who was a 13-year-old kid who was thrust in to the role of Spider-Man because he gained powers in a similar way to how Peter Parker did, and just felt the responsibility to step up. But over the last 6-7+ years, Marvel has done a really good job of trying to show that Miles Morales is an equal Spider-Man to Peter Parker. And I love that now we're starting to see that come up in other mediums. We've seen it in Into the Spider-Verse movie, and we also saw it in the PlayStation game, where I thought they did a really brilliant job of introducing the character to a brand new audience, getting you to care about him, getting you to care about his life, and then, just kind of setting it up with a lot of hints of this is what's going to be coming down the road. Is this might be the character who maybe in Spider-Man 3 or Spider-Man 4 for the PlayStation series will be the one that he's the headliner now. And I would love to see that.
I did notice in Spider-Man Homecoming as well, they had a sort of reference to him because it had his uncle in it, the guy who plays Prowler. Spoiler alert. But it was played by, who's the guy out of Community?
Glover.
Donald Glover.
Donald,
thank you.
Yeah, he was in it and he was listed as Prowler. So it's there's clearly going to be some Morales action going on in Homecoming as well. So
awesome. Yeah, a little shout out while we're talking about Spider-Man for Into the Spider-Verse.
So good.
Which is unbelievably good.
I bought the soundtrack. I don't even like that sort of music.
Nice. Yeah, one of the best movies I've seen in the cinema for a long time.
No spoilers.
Really good.
Blade Runner.
Yeah.
But anyway, the game itself, the Spider-Man game itself, the story was not only brilliant, the story made me cry a couple of times, particularly towards the end. There are a couple of moments in the game where it's a gut punch in a lot of ways. It's just was so brilliant, and the gameplay was so much fun. I never got bored playing it. I just finished all 3 episodes of the DLC yesterday. I finished the 3rd one yesterday, and again, it just made me, it had so many moments where the acting was so brilliant, and it just made me laugh out loud, and I had so much fun with it. And it's a game you absolutely should not miss if you own a PlayStation. You should just go out and buy it and have the time of your life playing as Spider-Man.
It's the first game I've ever bothered getting the platinum trophy for, and I plowed the hours into it, to the point where at no point did it ever even really become that much of a chore going off to try and get all of the challenges and stuff like that, because I enjoyed it so much. I remember them making a big point of the combat when they were talking up the game when it was coming out. They were saying, it gives you the opportunity to jump in and do all these things and be creative with the combat, and you actually have to be creative and mixing it up and trying all these different things, because the combat is tough, it's difficult,
is hard,
and you need to be skilled to do do it. It's like pulling off special moves and stuff in things like Street Fighter and stuff like that. You know, there is like combination. You've got to get your muscle memory down. It's a tough game to master. It gives you the flexibility to be creative in the combat. All of that stuff is so well done. As I've said before, combat is usually one of my least favourite parts of video games. I enjoyed every single second of combat that I played in this game. Loved it.
I would say that the combat in that is the best combat I've ever seen in any game.
Yeah, quite possibly.
The controls throughout the whole game are so intuitive. Yeah. It's like, you never have to think, which button is it to swing? Which button is it to do this? It just becomes like second nature to you, and it's such a wonderful thing when you've got that depth of combat.
I agree with the basic combat. One thing that I found frustrating was the use of the gadgets. I thought they could have been more seamlessly integrated, switching between the different gadgets that you have.
I don't think because I found necessarily intended to.
I ended up just using the same gadget all the time, And given what I had in my arsenal, it would have been really cool to be able to quick equip and change and pick. Like during a fight, I was like, right, I want to use the electric one now, and then I want to follow that up with the web shot, and then that would be cool.
I do wonder if that was partly intentional, because I think if it had been too easy to do that, I think maybe they felt you would have been a bit OP, and it might have made the game a bit too easy if you had all of your gadgets that easy at your disposal. I don't know, but. It was also because there were so many different things that you had to do. They had to stick that somewhere. Unfortunately, it was on a wheel that was off another wheel, wasn't it?
That was the thing.
But some of the gadgets were significantly better than others. So I tended to just remember the ones that I wanted, which were generally covering people in webs. Yeah. So it's fine. Or the little robots that shot everyone for me. So
you all haven't played the DLC yet.
I've got it all, but I haven't played it yet.
I will spoil just slightly that there are challenges in the DLC, in each level of the DLC, by the character Screwball, who's basically the one who's like, she's the loud, noisy villain who's going around trying to build up her YouTube followers.
Oh, yes. Brilliant.
Cool.
Yeah, so they have challenges for her, and one of the challenges that they have in each episode of the DLC is a gadget challenge, where basically Screwball requires you to take down each villain within a time limit using 2 gadgets. You can't punch them. You can't use other gadgets. You have to use these 2 gadgets, and you have to use them together.
Interesting.
And it is both maddening and completely satisfying when you finally beat it. But it's maddening up until that point.
Matt, please tell me there's no pigeon missions in the DLC.
I think I only had to chase one thing.
That's okay. One will do.
That was in the third one.
Oh, okay.
But they weren't pigeons.
That's good, because the pigeons I hated.
Yeah, some of the chasing missions and some of the what's the guy called?
Taskmaster.
The Taskmaster missions were a little bit annoying.
Yeah, but you could alternate between that and something else.
I think the only reason
that's basically what the Screwball missions are. They're basically extensions of the Taskmaster missions. Yeah.
I think the only reason that they started to get to me was that we played it so much. And I was trying to complete so many things that after a while it became a grind. So I just have to finish this thing. I have to finish it.
Yeah, I never really got to that stage because I was just having a blast with it. So
No, absolutely brilliant. Spider-Man 2018. What a game.
What a game indeed.
What a game. Now, on to you, Andy.
What could it be?
Yeah, well, you know the answer to this.
I think your game of the year is Rockstar game.
Yeah.
Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yes, it is Red Dead Redemption 2. It's really interesting because I loved Spider-Man so much, and I remember thinking, I don't know how a game is going to better that this year. And Red Dead Redemption 2 came out, and I'll get this out of the way now. It wasn't a perfect game, because there were some issues with that. We've already mentioned them briefly tonight, about some of the control methods, about a couple of the ways, just the animation and bits and pieces of when you're trying to interact with objects in the world, which were a bit clunky and a bit difficult. But those issues aside, in terms of its sprawling scope, in terms of its storytelling, and in terms of its total immersiveness, I don't think I've played a game ever that has matched it in those regards, including like Grand Theft Auto 5. Grand Theft Auto 5 was quite different because there was a massive chunk of humor in that, and it was a big kind of, we're holding up a big comedy mirror to the USA. Look at all these funny things we're taking fun of. Whereas there was bits of that in Red Dead Redemption 2, but they were much more subtle, and they weren't going around waving a flag saying, "Look how terrible America is." They were going off and they were doing it with the historical setting. They were kind of by laying the foundations for the new country, for the new United States, the new kind of society that they were trying to build. They were demonstrating that at the core, the kind of capitalist functions of the United States were flawed from the start, and little things like that Rockstar do in their games, they did really well. But what it didn't do, which what Grand Theft Auto games in general do, is make a big look at this, we're poking fun at America, because this, which GTA does as well, but this had an awful lot of affection for the United States as well, an enormous amount of affection for the good sides of the USA, but more than anything else, it had, and this is part of it, is that kind of community aspect where you had the group, your gang, your group of people, like the kind of the friendship, the bonds, the brotherhood stuff that that were some of the fundamental founding principles of the USA back then, that you got within your party, and all of that stuff, in the way that they layered that stuff in with totally immersive gameplay was incredible. The interaction between the characters, the acting, the scripting, the animation, and all of those things were so unbelievably well tied together that I have never felt like I was in a game as much as I did in that game, because I felt like a complete and total part of that video game.
It is an absolute tour de force of game development.
Yeah.
The systems involved in making that game work in the way it does are unfathomable.
Yeah.
Like the level of detail that goes into every single NPC and character that's in the game, the interactions between the things that you do and things that happen later on in the game are incredible. And like you said, I think it takes itself seriously. It does take itself very seriously, because it's a serious story, right? Mm-hmm. With some comic elements within it, but overall it's a serious story. And I was thinking, like, the difference between GTA 5 is like GTA 5 is like Fast and Furious, and Red Dead 2 is like True Grit, right? Yeah. It's a drama basically, rather than an action film.
And it's got its own pace, it doesn't rush you into anything, game, right? And you can kind of sit back into the game and relax into it, can't you?
I love games that let you breathe, that give you that space to actually enjoy this incredible world they've created. Because in GTA, you're too busy, jumping a dirt bike off the top of a mountain and then sailing down in a fucking airship and then landing in an airport and taking off in a fighter jet to realise what the fuck's going on. Whereas in Red Dead, you can just take your horse and just clop around, look at this beautiful view, and make it sort of just... Sometimes when I was playing it was like, what am I going to do today? Oh yeah, I'm going to ride up and I'm going to try and do some hunting up here. Or I'm going to ride into town and play some blackjack. And it had a world that didn't feel mechanical. It had a world that felt organic, that felt real. And you were just a part of it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a lot of open world games where the world comes to life as you appear.
Yes.
So when I walk into an area in a world, zing, like everything comes to life and starts to happen like clockwork. It's not like that. It's just happening, and you really just walk into it. And that is the genius of the way that they've developed the NPCs. One thing that I loved was going to Valentine and like riding through and see them building that building. And as the game progressed, they fucking finished the bastard.
Yeah.
Like during the game, Little things like that are just so good because it just makes it feel real.
One of my favourite bits of the moments in the game, which was sort of semi-intentional, was getting to Saint Denis for the first time. And I knew you guys hadn't been there yet. or I suspected you hadn't. We were being so cautious about spoilers with each other.
Yeah.
And I'd been there, and I'd accidentally stumbled across this place because I felt like I need to clear some of the fog off the map because my OCD wasn't liking it. So I went for a bit, and I accidentally stumbled upon Saint Denis, and it was. I just happened to get there in the evening, and I stumbled across a bar, and I went upstairs, and I went outside, and I was outside on a little veranda thing like that, and like. Because like the oil lamps and the candle lamps and stuff were like lighting this little courtyard in the background with all these kind of like all this greenery and shrubbery and the pot plants and stuff around there, and that kind of like New Orleans style kind of buildings and stuff. And in the background there was the chit chatter inside of the bar and the chinking of glasses and stuff like that. And there was people walking past and a little kind of horse and carriage clip clop past and things like that. And all of that was happening. And I got this overwhelming sense of, you know, when you're on holiday and you find a new place that's like one of your favorite, you go, oh, this place is amazing. I was there in a video game going, I love this place, and I almost felt like I was on holiday. I was that immersed in
Amazing.
It's such a beautifully realized game in every way, shape and form. I think it's absolutely magnificent. I really do.
And there are some incredible moments in the story as well. And it's got one of the best... Although, the way it's set up is really interesting. Because it's a prequel, you have some prior knowledge. And they really use that psychologically in the story. Because they know that you know. Mm-hmm. But they won't tell you kind of how it happens. And they're going to let that play itself out. And you're always waiting for stuff to happen, right? But the character turn... the Dutch character turn that happens after you go to Saint Denis, and it's a spoiler probably, but the alligator part.
Yeah.
When that happens, I was just sitting there like, oh no, he's gone. And it was just then, and you can see like even the acting between the characters, everyone's like looking at each other like, oh shit, this is it. This is the moment that turned him. This is the part where he became a baddie, you know? It's so good.
It just everything about it was just because it was beautifully set up into these different chapters, and which helped you kind of port you away, find your way around this really big map and give you a new home each time, and also it gave the story some structure, so they'd always have like a big kind of denouement to every chapter, which gave it a sense of occasion and like the sense of drama that was building up as the music was stirring up as you're going off as a gang to like the final mission. You know something big's building, and then you run your horse straight into a tree and fall off, and it ruins all of it.
It did have some great unintentional slapstick comedy in that game. I wonder if that. Well, I wonder if they knew that people were going to be doing that shit, because the slapstick nature of some of those crashes are hilarious, and it makes you feel like that's been done on purpose.
Definitely.
But everything about the game was fantastic, and the epilogue I thought was brilliant as well, and very well paced. I think the pacing of the game in general was great, and there's one thing that if I were to play it again, knowing now how big it is as a story, I'd have just played the story. Yeah. Because you'd have done enough of the other little bits and bobs as an aside to doing the story that you didn't need to. Because I spent like 2 weeks of just fucking around, which I really didn't need to do. Because then it took me so long to finish the game. Because I reckon the game story alone is like 25 hours or something, maybe more.
Easy,
It's weird though, because I didn't want to like this game, and I thought it was great. I loved it. But the bits I enjoyed the most were the bits where you were doing whatever you wanted. Yeah. I didn't enjoy the story missions as much. Like, the story was great. Yeah. But the story missions felt very much on rails, like go to this point, do this, and to the point where they didn't even let you choose which weapons from your horse you could take and so it did feel a little bit like the story missions were a bit on rails. But that's why I loved the side quests and the hunting and stuff like that, because you could just do whatever you wanted. And that's why I love things like Hitman, because they let you do what you wanted. And I think in a game which has got a morality system, I wish the story missions had a bit more ability to do things differently. Like, okay, get to the same point, but you can traverse that level a little bit differently, or something.
I think Rockstar should have got rid of all of the systems, because I didn't pay attention to any of them. After a while, they should have got rid of all of the health, all of the survival bullshit, because it wasn't enough to impact you, but it was just enough to annoy you.
Yeah, that's
So
a fair point.
I'd have got rid of that completely because I thought it was unnecessary.
I don't think that. I think the morality thing was something that they thought might have been a major part of the game from the outset. It kind of they decided that it wasn't going to have that much impact over time, but not so much that they bothered to take it out. I don't think it was needed.
I just wish maybe it, like said, right, for every mission, okay, you've got the choice of either riding in with your gang, or you can basically just make your own way there and just meet them there. Like, and they did a lot of story exposition through that, which was fine. But I did find that when I got to the missions, it was always like, it will give you a little yellow circle, go to the yellow circle, then it will have a little cutscene, and then you got to go to the other one. There were very few missions where it said, there you go. Do what you want.
I would say that's broadly my issue with open world games anyway, which are well documented, and they become quite samey. Whereas at least, and this is what Rockstar's big strength is again, as I said before, they wrap the story around those missions.
Yeah.
So for me, actually, what I'm doing in the mission is less of an issue.
You're interacting with a cutscene at that
exactly.
point. Okay.
That's
there's no other way around it. Yeah. When you play in an open world, the story, the like driven narrative, is necessarily narrow.
I mean,
there's no way around it.
That's a very minor complaint for me because, like I said, like I think any other year, like that would be number one game for me because it like we're talking about a game that isn't on my top 5, spoiler alert, but is absolutely phenomenal. Like, you're talking 9.5, 9.9 out of 10 or something. It's just the fact that for me, from my personal view, there are 5 games that are better, maybe even 6 or 7.
But, for me, Red Dead Redemption is the best open world game ever made by quite a long margin.
I will fight you for Skyrim.
Yeah, I'm afraid Skyrim has been knocked off of its perch.
I'm not having it. I'm not having it. Outside now.
Yeah, I'm afraid the whole character roster in Skyrim probably has fewer words than like the least voice acted NPC.
But it has the most important ones, which are Fuzz Rodar.
That is right.
The in terms of actual kind of storytelling, there must be hundreds of hours of story.
Incredible,
because not just the main missions, but the side missions and all of the other bits and pieces, the conversations that you stumble across. Like the amount of storytelling going on in that whole thing is absurd.
It's the level of care. I think that's what makes me really, really love that game, is because it's the level of care that's gone into the design, and they've cut no corners, and that is so satisfying because in open world games, that is the first thing you see is all the cut corners.
Yeah.
And they just haven't done that, It's quite amazing. It's quite an amazing feat.
Well, I will say, I haven't played Red Dead Redemption 2, but you all have inspired me to actually go back and play Red Dead Redemption 1.
Nice.
Which I know, Matt, you hate it.
Don't do it, Matt. It's a waste of time.
Great. I'm halfway through the game, and I'm loving the hell out of it.
Yeah, of course you are.
Well, if you enjoy terrible cowboy games, you will enjoy it. But you might as well have just gone to 2, Matt. It's a prequel anyway, so you can then have that and have 1 as the disappointing sequel.
Well, now you're going to get to do both, and you are very lucky because you're going to get to play an incredible game.
Play Dead Cells first.
So once I get into 2, then I'll see just how incredible it is, Matt, and I'll understand that 1 was shit.
Yeah.
But I'm going to get through 1 first.
Well, I think if you'd played any games over the last 10 years, you'd realise that Red Dead 1 was shit. But...
Incorrect. Absolutely, Andy, great choice.
Thank you very much.
And Matt Angel, I know what your game of the year is.
You do, because I told you while I was
filthy
drunk.
Animal.
Yeah. You've already both talked about it at length. I'm going to do it anyway. God of War is not only the best game of this year, I believe that there will not be a better game on this generation of consoles.
Wow.
That game is just the amount of love they have put into that game to take, like Matt was saying, a series that had died. It would completely died. They'd run out of gas with the Grease storyline, and they went, you know what? They could have rebooted it and just done like Grease again with better graphics. And they decided, you know what? Let's go a little bit different. Let's go to a different type of mythology. And it just worked so brilliantly. The storyline is the best storyline that there has ever been in a computer game. I 100% think that is the case. Like I said, it's just so much love. Hearing you talk about Red Dead Redemption, the amount of things, I respect Red Dead Redemption. I think it's fantastic, but I get the feeling that Rockstar wanted to impress people. I get the feeling that Sony Santa Monica wanted people to love this game, and they put so much like joy into it that it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing.
I think they were in a great position because they're in a luxury spot whereby they're given a console exclusive title that doesn't have to make money, which is the beauty of those types of titles. It's not there to make a studio a shitload of money. It's there to sell consoles.
Yeah.
And so that means that they get way more money than another comparative game would have got because they have that big PS4 stamp on it. So yeah, they were given the luxury to make a story that maybe wouldn't have been like a giantly, hugely popular thing, and go a bit cleverer with it than they otherwise might have done. And it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
It's so rare to see a AAA title that doesn't have any form of additional money making for the company.
Yeah.
There's no DLC, there's no microtransactions. It's just a pure single player experience. There's no attempt to bolt on an unnecessary like online multiplayer mode. The only things that I felt were a little bit unnecessary was all the side quests and stuff. I didn't need them. Because you could have made that a linear storyline, and I would still have thought this was the game of the year.
But at the same time, because I was thinking that when you first started talking about it as your favourite game, and I was thinking, well, actually, do you know what? I didn't use it. I didn't play any of the open world bits once it broke into an open world game. But then I actually realised that I was initially thinking of that as a weakness of the game, but actually no, it's not. It's a strength because it's given you the option if you want to take more of this game and go out and explore a bit more and do a bit more, you can do, or you can just drill straight through the story, which is what I did.
Think of it like garnish on a bacon sandwich, Andy. You don't have to eat the garnish. If you want to, you can, but it doesn't make the bacon sandwich taste any less.
If anybody's putting garnish on my bacon sandwich, I'm not going to that restaurant again.
Yeah, exactly. What kind of madman is putting cress on a bacon sandwich?
Bit of cress on the side. It's fine. But you don't have to eat the cress. It doesn't make the bacon sandwich taste any less. It just means that there's a bit that you didn't experience, and that's fine, because that might have soured your experience.
God of War has everything.
Like I said, that Freya Boulder storyline, the most emotional
Brilliant.
I've ever found. People who talk about Last of Us having an amazing storyline, they can basically just do one and look at God of War, look at the way it tells stories. That is better than, I would say, 99% of the films that have come out this year. The 1% being obviously Spider-Verse. But it's getting to the point where games are treating their fans with love, they're treating fans with intelligence, and it results in what, quite frankly, is a masterpiece in God of War. It's just phenomenal.
No, it's absolutely brilliant, and it takes the thing that I really like about God of War is that it is a video game. It's a real video game. It's like a classic video game, and it doesn't pretend to be anything else. It's like a small level bash 'em up. Like classic, it's almost like a Mega Drive game, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But it just looks incredible, plays seamlessly, has great puzzles, and has a great combination of like platformer and just like physics puzzles and combat.
You mean like pushing boxes and things like that?
I don't remember pushing a box.
There was definitely some box pushing.
Was there?
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
You remember that bit inside the mountain where you just like...
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But no, I agree, because I think that's what attracted to me, that puzzle.
Pushing boxes.
Yeah.
Basically,
we know you fucking love pushing a box.
If it's pushing boxes, then...
It's a bit like Tetris. This is why he likes Tetris.
I'll be honest, Nier Automata has some box pushing in it as well. But I think it's a better game than maybe Uncharted 2.
Oh, big shout.
I'm not sure it's better than Skyrim, but I think story-wise, I think that's perfection, like God of War. I get emotional just thinking about it.
If it helps,
hard to argue.
If it helps, I think it's a better game than Uncharted 2 as well.
Hey.
Don't you start.
Bloody hell, guys. Right, we're an hour and a half in to this monster pod. There's still more that I want to talk about, though, so I don't think you're going anywhere.
Okay.
Because I want to do some honourable mentions. I'm going to pick my favourite out of your favourites, and I'm going to tell you about that. And we're going to take a little break, and then we're going to come back. We're going to do some other games that we haven't mentioned so far, some honourable mentions, and we're going to do some worst games of the year as well, because I know some of you want to talk about that. Yep. And we're going to try and wrap this up in the next 20 minutes. So we will be back after a very quick break. Right, one last section of this Monstropod.
Monstropod.
Good top fives, guys. Solid.
Thanks.
I would say solid top
No
fives.
bad games on there, apart from Matt's Monster Hunter World.
No bad games. I feel like I've missed out now, to be honest.
I like the way you've listed them 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I couldn't help that. It's automatically done it.
Okay.
It can't count down from 5 to 1. It can only do 5 upwards. Fucking stupid thing. I know what they are, though.
Okay,
That's the most important thing.
I'm especially impressed by Donut County, which I'm going to download as soon as I get home.
I know. Amazing.
So much fun.
A
It
great
is so
little
ridiculously
addition.
soothing. I love it.
Can you get that on iPad? Seems like it'd be good on iPad.
I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
I'm going to get it on Switch.
Yeah, I have it on the Switch. I'm loving it.
I'm going to buy some more Switch games. So based on this, I'm definitely looking into Donut County on Switch. I'm looking at Super Smash on Switch, and I'm also looking at Dead Cells on Switch.
Do it.
All of those sound pretty fucking good.
Yep, I'm going to give Donut County a look, I think.
You've missed some games, boys.
Which games have we missed, Si?
I mean, you've missed a couple.
FIFA and Football Manager.
To be fair, Football Manager 19 is boss.
Football Manager 19 is boss, so we'll have none.
FIFA
of
19 apparently isn't.
No, FIFA 19 actually is really, really, really good for couch co-op.
Right, but everything else about it is terrible.
Everything else about it is exactly the same as it was before.
Right.
But it has some new modes in the... I wasn't even going to talk about this. This is your fault that I'm talking about.
Don't talk about
You
FIFA
can
19.
stop talking
Well,
about
I
it.
will.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Good.
I will. But no, you've missed a couple of excellent games. One that we talked about earlier, which is Celeste, which is an excellent game, but really hard.
Yeah.
Way too hard for me. And although it is brilliant and it has some brilliant mechanics, the way that you jump, it's a bit like Super Meat Boy, if you remember that.
Yeah.
Like the different stuff you have to do to bounce off walls and do all this shit. And it's super satisfying when it goes right, but sadly it goes right about 2% of the time.
Right.
So that for me it's a bit like Cuphead. It's one of those games that like has so much going for it, but because it's so freaking hard, it's a real turn off. That was a really cool game. There's another game that I think was officially released this year, but you and I played on beta last year, Matt, which I wanted to mention, which is a game called Astroneer.
Oh yeah, Astroneer was great.
Astroneer Astroneer is basically what No Man's Sky should have been.
It was just an even more chilled comedy. There was, you had to connect your base up with these little electric like lines, and there were times where me and Si had gone so far, and then one of the lines had broken, and we were just stranded in the middle of nowhere with no power.
It was great. It was a survival space exploration game, but done in a really cutesy kind of cartoon style, and it was so much fun. And even though this was a much smaller game than No Man's Sky, it had all the same stuff. You could build spaceships and fly to different planets. You could go exploring and build things and build your base up. It basically had all of the stuff that No Man's Sky had, but in a much neater and better executed package. It was surprising.
Buggy as hell when it was in beta, though.
When it was in beta, it was buggy. It's fully released now and highly worth checking out if you like kind of chill
really
exploration.
What format is that?
Very cool.
PC.
That was
Just
on
PC.
That was on the PC.
Boring.
Well, the next game you're not going to like either, because although maybe this is available on PlayStation. But one of the games of the year for me was definitely the return of Obra Dinn.
Oh my god, it's in my honourable mentions.
It's an absolutely amazing game.
I have only played this today.
I can't wait to play this one.
I downloaded it this morning, which was annoying because Steam was down, and I panicked that I wasn't going to be able to do it, and then realised that GOG existed, so I downloaded it on there.
Yeah.
And honestly, it snuck into my top 5 this morning, and then I thought I can't put in a game that I've only played this morning.
Yeah.
That would be shambles, but
It's glorious.
it is right up my alley.
This thing.
Yeah, so I'll explain to you a little bit about how it works. So,
Brilliant.
do you remember a game called Papers, Please?
Yes, I do.
Which was a really
yes.
clever game where the guy had to let people in or out of
that was
his,
fucking
the
brilliant.
country. Yeah, so it's designed by the same guy, Lucas something or other.
Yeah.
The guy's name is. And what this game is, in a similar vein, he's obviously got a thing for paperwork, this guy.
Yeah.
Because you play an insurance adjuster who is sent to a ship that's been returning from duty. So this is...
It's a bit Mary Celeste, isn't it?
It is. I guess this is sort of, 18th century?
Yeah.
Because like East India Company kind of thing. You are sent to check out this boat because it has returned from port after being away for many years. Nobody knows where it's been. And your job is to go on and find out what the hell happened on the boat. And the gameplay, as it is it's basically an point and click exploration game where you wander around.
It's less of a point and click.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah,
it's fully like first person.
Yes, it's fully first person.
So you move around with WASD and move the mouse to look. And
yes.
stuff.
So you walk around the boat and you uncover clues, and as you uncover the clues, you have a magic pocket watch which allows you to go back in time and see scenes that occurred in the past.
They're like dioramas, aren't they? They're like
Exactly,
paused
yeah.
moments in time.
Right.
And each one explains a little bit about what happened on the ship. And as you go around the ship and you uncover these little secrets, you get a broader and broader view of the incredible stuff that happened on this boat and what happened to each of the characters. And your job as the insurance adjuster is based on these little snippets of information you have to work out how every single member of the ship's roster, so 51 people on the ship plus I think 7 other randos that were on board, how they were killed and why.
Yeah.
And
It's
throughout
like an
this-
extended game of Cluedo. So it will say
Great.
this unknown person died in this unknown manner at the hands of this person
Yeah.
or thing. It's like, and you've got to fill it out. And it's like an extended logic problem, but you're only getting small snippets of information each time. And it's just astonishing what they've done.
Yeah, it
but you
is
haven't even got into the
absolutely
art
brilliant.
style yet.
I know, the
it's
art
like
style's
a
quite incredible.
monochrome drawn like environment. And you can actually change it so it's the old IBM monitor colours or an old Spectrum, Commodore 64
Yeah.
colours. And it's just brilliant.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's glorious.
I know it's only on PC. Do we know if they
Okay.
plan on like releasing it on Switch? At this
I would
point?
love it on Switch. I think it would be
Okay,
great
because
on
that's
Switch.
I kind of want to hold out for that. I want it to be something that I can take with me as
But
opposed to.
I
have to
would
send it.
say that the demo for this came out 4 years ago. It's taken him 4 years to complete it on PC. So don't
just-
hold your breath.
Okay, buy it now. Okay, got it. All right.
It's just one dude, isn't it?
I think
Like,
so, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think he did Papers, Please in the meantime because people were going, where's that other game you
Oh,
promised us?
right, okay.
but to be fair, I mean, if this does well enough,
Yeah.
I'm sure he could just
Yeah.
like
port
pay
it.
some people
Yeah,
to
yeah.
port it.
Yeah,
right?
indeed.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think it would be brilliant on the Switch. I don't see a
I'm
reason
try-
why they can't do it on PS4, to be honest. But
I'm trying to find if there is anything about it on Switch, but because this is the way the fucking internet works these days, you have to read a fucking 3,000 word article
To get
just
to the
to get to
information
the
you
point
want.
you
Clickbait.
actually want. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, so those were just a couple of games that I
Yeah.
wanted to add to the list. Absolutely brilliant.
I've got some honourable mentions.
Go on, Matt.
There's a lot of them, so I'm not going to dwell on them. Red Dead Redemption 2, because I thought I'd hate it and I didn't. Slay the Spire, which is still in early access, but that is the game I've played the most. I've got 166 hours in there since February. Gorogoa was beautiful. Gris I've been playing on the Switch recently, which is fantastic.
Tooth and Tail?
I
I didn't even mention Tooth
That was
and
last
Tail.
year.
Oh, was it? Okay.
2 Point Hospital, Octopath Traveler, because
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting a SNES emulated game to be that good. Not that it is. Astrobot Rescue Mission, because PSVR, that plus
because you spent 200 quid on it. So.
honestly, like in 2D, that would be a distinctly like a cute but attractive platformer. In VR, it is incredible. Love it. Divinity Original Sin on PS4. I haven't played a lot of it, but I'm looking forward to getting into it because it seems like it's taken everything from the PC version, but it's given it a nice console control. And Return of the Obra Dinn.
Nice. I wanted to mention as well, I know none of you like driving games, but Forza Horizon 4 is awesome.
Forza Horizon.
Yeah, it's fucking great.
Forza Horizon.
This is coming from a guy that's still playing Tetris 34 years later.
Tetris Effect. I think.
No, it's brilliant. It's brilliantly executed. It's probably the best driving game ever made. I'd say it's perfect.
Wow. Even over Mario Kart.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Mario Kart's more fun, I'd say. But then I'm not playing Forza Horizon for fun.
It's just a chore. I just get in the car and I drive.
It's not even a chore. It's just happening. It's just like it's the most chilled. It's like a form of meditation, basically. I just put my podcast on and just drive around. Aimlessly.
Hold on, I've got to add a game to the worst games of the year list.
It's really good. Unless you played it, you can't give it.
I'm not going to play it.
Well, you're missing out. You see, this is it. When you lock yourself in a little box, you're missing out.
Stop mentioning boxes.
You're literally locking yourself in a box with that headset. You are literally putting your head in a box.
And moving other boxes around.
And moving other boxes
I'm
around.
punching walls.
Any other honourable mensch going on here?
I will toss in. I want to toss in 2 Point Hospital. Loved it
I
too.
loved it.
Very good.
I've been starting to play Frostpunk. Oh my god, that is.
I forgot about Prostfunk.
What?
Prostfunk. That was great.
Yeah, it's been a. I'm not very far in, and I can just already tell that it's going to kick my ass and just depress me. But it's
No, just
really
send all the
well
children
done.
to the mines, Matt. It's fine.
There we go.
Everything.
It's fine.
Just
It's fine. We
work
don't- yeah,
houses
we're
are the way forward.
Looks
Right,
cool.
exactly.
Tell us about this game a second.
I think I talked about it on the pod once. It's basically a
Yes, I remember
survival
this.
thing where world is ended and it's in the you're rebuilding
yeah,
London.
I remember.
and things.
Yes, yeah.
It's really good, and you've got to make choices. Go, okay, do you want to like give everyone food and your rations will run out quickly, or do you want to kill half the people and then eat them? It's fine.
Yeah, and you can use people's corpses for fuel and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Oh god, I haven't even gotten that far.
Oh,
Jesus. Oh, that's
you wait till it gives you the food options, Matt.
yeah, great.
It's really good though. It's a very
It looks good.
It's hard as nails, but it's really good.
Other honorable mentions for me: Into the Breach.
That was good.
Yeah, I'm enjoying that. I'm awful at it. I'm absolutely awful. It's by the same guys who did FTL, and I'm also
Yeah.
awful at that.
It's
so
a nice little
that's
puzzle
not a
game.
surprise. Yep. We talked about it earlier in the podcast. Katamari Damacy re-rolled.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm having so much fun playing that
It's
again.
really
I
good.
didn't realize how much I missed that game until I started playing it. And then Andy and I only got to play this once. We need to actually.
shit. Yeah,
I want to play A Way Out.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
That was fun. That's the one where it's basically a
Yeah.
co-op game the entire way through, and you get to see both people playing on screen at the same time. If we ever decide to do like a video cast or something,
Yeah.
Twitch
that would
stream
be
something,
cool.
I think that would be great for us to just sit there with
Nice.
Matt and Cy shit talking us the entire way through.
Yeah.
That doesn't
good.
sound like something we do.
Yeah, absolutely not. That
I've
sounds
forgotten
good.
all about that. Yeah, that's definitely worth an honorable mention. Yes, we definitely have to finish that.
We didn't mention Shadow of the Colossus either, but it's a re-release of a re-release of a re-release, but it was
Yeah.
lovely. So
Yep.
shout out to that because it was great.
Yeah, terrific.
Yeah. Crikey. Well, that is a whole host of games that we've got in there, chaps.
I've only
We've
played
been-
5.
We've been very positive.
We have.
Are we going to get negative?
Well, yeah, but we'll do the negative, and then I'm going to round it off by announcing the Idiot Gamer official game of the year.
Okay.
So, give us the worst games of the year.
Well, this is one we haven't played, but Fallout 76 has to be the worst game of the
Terrible.
year, surely.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
Of things we've played,
Fucked it is the official
yeah.
situation there.
Fucked it 76.
Yeah.
Friday the 13th was not good.
Oh, that was amazing.
Was that this year?
Yeah.
So
Well, it was officially released this year.
Right.
we we played it because it was free on PS Plus, right?
Yeah.
And we were just bored because we'd been playing some other stuff. And we were like, fuck it was Halloween, wasn't it?
Yeah,
So we
yeah,
were like,
yeah.
we're going to give it a go. It was so bad.
We
How
didn't
is
know
that a
what was
game?
going on. I don't know. But,
How is that a game? It's so bad.
I'm also,
Oh my god.
I was Jason. I had no idea what was going on.
Nobody knew what was happening. Things were clipping through the walls. Things that should have been killing people weren't killing them. Like, none of it made any fucking sense.
I was basically hitting you with a shovel for ages and
Yeah.
you didn't die.
Development's been forcibly shut down on the game by lawsuit, so it'll die.
Oh,
Perhaps they'll rebrand it as something else.
jeez, terrible.
And I'm just going to throw Horizon Zero Dawn under the bus one more time. I
It
know
wasn't
it wasn't this year.
2018.
I played it this year and it was terrible. Never has a game looked so pretty and been so empty and void of anything. I didn't care about the characters. I didn't care about the story. That game can do one.
Yeah, I didn't like it either, but I played it last year. So.
So you're not having it.
Matt, what did you hate?
I was most disappointed by 2 games, both of which got good reviews online, and I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. I loved the original Ni no Kuni. I did not like Ni no Kuni 2.
No, I've got it on my disappointments list.
Yeah, that's my disappointing game. I haven't finished the game. I'm probably going to at some point, but I don't care. I was so just over how cutesy and earnest it was. But then I also like found the whole storyline problematic, where you have this cute little king going, "I'm going to take over the world," and everybody's like, "Yay, let's take over the world!"
Yeah, it's like Trump, the video game.
Yeah, it's just really tonally weird, and it didn't work for me. And the other one,
Yeah. It was.
just
Sorry, I'm going to carry on with this Ni no Kuni bashing for a
please do.
bit because I loved the first one. Like it had like like it had charm. It was well designed. This felt like when Disney take a really good film that they released at the cinema and they make a straight to video sequel of it. Yeah. That's what this felt like. The in-game video wasn't as good. The graphics weren't as good as the first game were, and the first game was on the previous console. It basically felt like they phoned it in. And I was really, really disappointed.
I think it was completely different writers for this game.
They didn't involve Studio Ghibli either, whereas they did on the first one. So they did everything on the cheap. So poor effort. I know John has just platinumed it and loved it, but
he never played Ni no Kuni 1 though. So.
No, indeed. So he wasn't there to be disappointed by how bad it was compared to that.
My other disappointing game was the Pokemon Let's Go game on the Switch.
Yeah.
Really?
Okay.
I know people who
I have never
adore
played a
that.
Pokemon game before, so I thought, okay, I will get in on this one and see what it is, because I always wanted one on like a major console, and so I gave it a shot, and I've played maybe like 2 hours of it, and I can't even. It's just not working for me at all. I don't know if I get the sense from talking to friends that not all Pokemon games are like this, but this one
they're
is
not.
just it's so simple and so basic, and and it's so repetitive, like right off the bat. There's
That is like all Pokemon games.
Yeah, but it's not even like a fun grind. I'm not enjoying the grind on it at all.
So it's like Destiny 2 is what you're saying.
Yeah.
basically, yes.
But,
So
from
that was
what-
disappointing for me.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who love that Pokemon game. I haven't bought it yet, even though I love Pokemon games, because it just looked a little bit too cutesy for me.
And it's a kind of, I mean, I know it can be played as a standalone, but it is also an augmentation of Pokemon
Yeah,
Go, isn't it?
absolutely.
And I think
Yes,
I think probably I get the sense you probably had to have been a big player of that, to get the most out of the Switch.
Yeah, I
game.
played Pokemon Go for about an hour and a half and then realised I had to walk somewhere, so gave up.
I mean, I played it quite a lot, but the biggest problem is that I live in the middle of fucking nowhere.
So there's no
And
Pokemons.
There's nothing to do.
Just Snorlaxes everywhere, isn't it?
It
In
was,
Oxfordshire?
rubbish.
No pocket monsters. Three big titles that we haven't mentioned. I'm quite glad we haven't mentioned any of these because they're all shit.
Okay.
But they didn't make it on any of our lists. That is Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Yeah.
That is Battlefield 5
Yeah.
and Blops 4.
Yeah.
None of which
Yeah.
got on any of our
No.
lists. I've seen some people giving these games their game of the year. It's the same old shit.
Yeah. And it's the same people giving them game of the year that play because it's all they've played all year.
Yeah.
Basically.
I mean, there's a certain level of like really expensive AAA-ness that will get me excited about a game sometimes, and the hype will be so big that I'll be tempted to play it. None of those games are doing any of that for me anymore.
I'm
like
getting
they're
less
so
of that
off
the
my
older I
radar. Yeah, they're so off my radar now, which is great because they are generally terrible. I think Black Ops did away completely with the story mode, so they are 100% on the online microtransaction thing.
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which by all accounts as a game is very good, but crippled by microtransactions in a single player game.
Yeah.
Like actual gameplay, like progression microtransactions.
You
and
are
apparently
Bunch of
there is
arseholes.
one microtransaction that without buying, the developer themselves said the game was a worse game. They're like, well, if you really want to enjoy it, you're going to have to get this.
Can you imagine if they'd come out with God of War and they went, right, okay, so here's the game, but if you want to play Kratos, you need to spend an extra 30 quid. If you want Atreus there, you need to spend another 30 quid. And if you want any of the supplementary characters...
Yeah. I was really disappointed.
That sounds like Battlefront.
Yeah, it really does.
I was really disappointed with that because I quite liked the previous Assassin's Creed. It was a straight up single player game, no funny business, right? Or if there was funny business, it was so hidden that you never saw it.
Yeah.
But then this one had it way up front, and a lot of outlets that I actually like YouTube reviewers and stuff, were loving this game and not even mentioning the microtransaction. I think that is bullshit because it's a huge part of this game.
That's because Ubisoft were giving them loads of money to talk up and how positive the game was, and then can you please please don't mention the microtransactions.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I find really fucking disappointing, actually, with a lot of the video game press, the international video game press, in that they're almost, by not making a big deal of it, they're almost apologists for turbo microtransactions, because it doesn't affect their enjoyment of the game, because they're on a fucking company account and they can probably just pay for pretty much anything they want. So they are not feeling what it's like to be a 14-year-old kid who's got like a fucking paper round or something like that, who gets one AAA title a year from their parents, who can't afford to stick everything on their parents' credit card, and to have half the fucking video game ripped from them because of these greedy bastards.
I'm talking out my arse here. This is bullshit, but just as a hyperbolic statement, it was something like you could purchase this one microtransaction in Assassin's Creed Odyssey that turns the grind to get you from like level 1 to level 50 from like 200 hours to 40 hours.
I think you're underestimating that 200 hours as well.
Yeah, it's like, that is bullshit, guys. Come on, that is bullshit.
And the only thing I'm really glad is I'm glad the community is fighting back, and they're making enough noise that the press are having to pick up on it, and that they are starting to they're being forced to take note of it. They realise that they've pushed it farther than they can get away with. Hopefully,
what's really good though is the games that are winning games of the year. Like I've seen a lot of God of War awards. I've seen a lot of Red Dead Redemption 2 awards. Granted, that will have payment in the online mode,
but you don't have to touch it.
Yeah. Like the single player is like, a standalone experience that you can experience without any extra money in. Spider-Man, yes, it had DLC, but again, that was optional. The fact that these are getting so well recognized, and things like your Battlefronts and your nonsense is just getting slammed on release
is good.
It's good.
And I actually sort of, part of it actually hopes that, because I assume it's not out made full release yet, but Red Dead Online, actually part of me hopes that fucking tanks.
To be honest,
agree. Because if that absolutely tanks, Rockstar will turn their head away from that. And they'll go, well, actually, shit, the actual main game earned us $1 billion on its first day or whatever it was, ridiculous. And the online's earned us nothing. So actually, that isn't the guaranteed gold mine we thought it was.
But the other option is that they go, oh, but look how much money we've made off GTA Online. We just won't make another Red Dead.
Yeah.
So no, that won't. I think they made so much money off the one-player game of that.
Well, I think there's plenty to look forward to next year, and I think the microtransaction bubble that happened this year may be bursting already, and we might see.
I don't think so. I think we're going to see more of it.
See some good stuff. I don't know. I don't know. I think the fact that
Ghost of Tsushima is going to have, like, if you want to play level 2, you're going to have to pay £10.50.
Yeah, I bloody hope not. So we'll end on a positive, I think, because as much as there were a few stinkers, it was mostly blinders.
It was amazing this year.
2018. And so I'm going to put the official stamp for the Idiot Gamer Game of the Year award goes to God of War.
Yes! Get in.
Has to be God of War for me. All these other games are brilliant. Spider-Man and Red Dead are both two of the best open world games ever done. But God of War was just simple and brilliant. Had it all. Why not? And that brings us... Yeah, everybody happy with that?
Yeah.
No, but I'll let it go. I've been outvoted.
You take your Cowboys. Sod off.
And so there we go.
A prediction on our best game we're looking forward to in 2019? Around the table real quick?
There's a whole host
that I think is going to get released. Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, that one. Cyberpunk 2077.
I don't think that's coming out next year. That's why I didn't say it.
I'm intrigued by that. I have it might be fucking awful. But that does entice me. Yeah. I'm actually weirdly, and a lot of this is a nostalgia thing, because it was the game that got me into playing online video games with you guys. It's where I met most of you guys. But I'm even though the first one had its major share of problems, I'm actually quite looking forward to the Division 2.
Oh yeah, me too.
I'm worried at how the microtransactions may work in that game, but we'll see.
I don't think they'll wait too much on that because because
There were none in the last one.
Well, and also the last one,
No.
the last one flopped as well. So if they put all of their eggs into the microtransactions basket, they wouldn't get anything out of it because they wouldn't have made anything out of that first one.
It's Ubisoft though; they don't make sensible decisions.
No,
That's true, but I'm excited about it because we had a lot of fun fucking around in that game.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be good. What about you, Scruff?
I'm
Death
looking forward to
Stranding.
Last of Us Part 2.
Oh yeah, Last of Us 2. Yeah.
Why have you not been sleeping well enough? And you just need a little bit to get you off to sleep at night. Yeah.
Right.
I had an interesting conversation with a friend of mine who really likes the first one, and I hated it.
Yeah.
And I loved all the story, and I loved the characterizations, and I loved all of that kind of stuff. But the gameplay itself, here's a room full of zombies walking the same pattern. I've got to pick my way through it. Oh no, I've died. Right, I'm gonna have to pick my way through it again. The trial and error. I mean, maybe I should just be better at it. But
Get good.
yeah.
Get good.
But I didn't understand why he liked this game, but actually that's what he loved about it. He loved like the methodical kind of let's go out there and do it. So I don't know, weird.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good game. I don't know if it's for me just because I can't do stealth because I'm a bit shit. That's my main problem.
That might be it.
But yeah, so there you go. The whole host of games. Matt and I did an E3 roundup, which you can go back and listen to, which has most of the games for next year in it.
Yeah, but I think a lot of the ones we're excited about will be like 3 or 4 years time.
Yeah, quite possibly. Elder Scrolls 6. Yeah, not
Starfield. Mind you, what they've done with Fallout 76, it may not even be that good a
That
game.
is true. Right then, we're going to sneak it just under the 2 hours, gents. What a massive monster pod. It's an excellent chat.
Yeah.
And I think you've all come up with some excellent titles for the year. What a year in gaming, 2018.
It was great.
If 2018 was good for anything, it was good for video
That's
games.
all it was good for.
Yeah.
Right, and on that, we move seamlessly into the future to 2019, where everything will be different.
Except this podcast.
Except this podcast will remain exactly the same.
Still be bickering.
And we will see you. Say goodbye, everybody. Wait, say goodbye. And we'll see you next year on the Idiot Gamer Podcast.